And Elijah said to Ahab, "Go, eat and drink, for there is the sound of heavy rain." So Ahab went off to eat and drink. But Elijah climbed to the top of Carmel, bent down on the ground, and put his face between his knees. "Go and look toward the sea," he told his servant. And he went up and looked. "There is nothing there," he said. 7 times Elijah said, "Go back." The 7th time the servant reported, "A cloud as small as a man's hand is rising from the sea." So Elijah said, "Go and tell Ahab, hitch up your chariot and go down before the rain stops you." Meanwhile, the sky grew black with clouds. The wind rose, a heavy rain came on, and Ahab rode off to Jezreel. What are you hearing? Are you hearing that Americans are losing their jobs? Are you hearing about all the recession that has devastated not only America's economy, but the economy around the world? Have you been hearing how houses have been foreclosed and how the stress of financial lack has put pressure on marriages, and that there have been more filing for divorce and separation? Have you been hearing about the swine flu and little children dying? Have you been hearing that this coming near you? What have you been hearing? That it's hard to serve God in this time where the world has becoming more and more secularized? What have you been hearing? Because what you hear is what you believe. Isn't that true? What you hear a lot is what you believe. For example, if you hear something bad about someone and you meet them, immediately you believe that person to be bad because you've been hearing bad stuff. On the other hand, if you hear some good things about someone and you finally meet that person, I get to shake your hand because you've been hearing good things. In other words, what you hear determines what you believe about something. So if you've been hearing that the economy is getting worse, it's hard to survive during this period, it's hard to be rich during this time in our country, it's hard, it's difficult, then you know what's going to happen? You're going to believe that that's going to happen to you. Yeah, but Pastor, you don't understand. It actually is happening. I know it is. But Elijah is hearing not about what's happening, but what will happen. He's hearing the future. He's hearing rain coming. And I love the way the King James puts his words in 1 Kings 18:41. He says, "There is a sound of abundance of rain." Do you hear abundance of rain coming to you? Do you hear it? I don't hear anything. What do you hear? See, there are many voices in the world. As St. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 14:10, there are many voices in the world. And those voices often tell us how difficult it's going to be. It could be the voice of a spouse who said, "I don't want to be married to you." It could be the voice of customers who said, "I'm sorry, we can't afford to, or we're dropping you as a business and we're going somewhere else." It could be the voices of a wayward child that says, "Listen, I don't want anything to do with God," and all that stuff. It could be the voices of your boss saying, "I'm sorry, we're not going to pay you as much," or "You're laid off." It could be voices that bring fear to you, or you can decide to hear a voice that is unseen to the audible ear. It's the voice of the invisible God. And that invisible God gives us, in a real sense, an invisible voice, but that invisible voice is a very, very real voice. It is a real sound that, if you will believe and embrace it, can change your current world. And Elijah was hearing this sound. He's hearing it getting louder and louder. And as he's praying, he turns to the servant and says, "Go look over the sea. What do you see?" And the servant looks out and he sees nothing. He comes back and says, "Sir, there's nothing there." But Elijah is hearing God telling him what he's going to do. And he says, "Go back again." The man goes back and comes for the second, third time. "Go back." He comes back to the fourth time. There's nothing. "Go back." He comes back and says, "Nada." "Go back." You didn't know he was Mexican. He's telling him There is nothing, Elijah. What are you doing? There is nothing there. And you know what this story tells me? You cannot give up because you hear something and you believe God's going to come through today. And if it doesn't happen today, well, I thought it was today. Well, then, what are you living in? You know, you're always living in today. So today is your day. Well, I thought yesterday was well, yesterday's gone. Today's a new day. And when things don't happen right away, you don't give up and say, oh, that was it. No, he said, go back because I'm hearing something. I'm hearing God say, there's a rain of revival coming to El Paso. There's a rain of money, finances coming to El Paso. I'm hearing a rain that God's restoring your marriages. God's bringing prodigals back to Christ. I hear it. Do you hear it? Go back. There is something there. And he goes back and finally on the seventh time he says, oh, there's a little small hand. Should I even tell my master about this? Because he's a fanatic, you know. Besides, it's not really significant. It's nothing big. Should I just keep it from him? But he decides, I better tell him. Well, listen, there's a small, tiny little cloud the size of a man's hand coming from the sea. That's it! You see, when you are hearing God telling you that your marriage is going to be restored, your prodigal children are coming back, your business is going to prosper again, money's going to start coming, you're going to start getting raises and promotions. When you start hearing that God's favor is coming to you, then you know what happens? Any one little thing excites you. That small cloud might be a prodigal child who calls you up out of the blue. That's it, he's getting saved. And your spouse says, honey, he just called to see how we're doing. That's a change. It's a small cloud. God's doing something. See, it might be your non-Christian spouse mentioning, so how was the sermon this Sunday? Really? He's interested. No, he just wants to know how this. No. Do you see the small cloud? You're getting this. It's the small cloud rising. That small cloud might be a boss in passing suggesting that he might promote you. That's it. That's the small cloud. The small cloud might be a new customer calling you up, inquiring about your business. That's it! I knew God was going to give us a breakthrough. But it's just a customer. It's just one out of thousands. But see, a person of faith starts to look at God's hand, a little here and a little there, and he sees the cloud rising. That cloud rising might be the doctor telling you, you know, it looks to me like your tumor is starting to shrink. I told you, Dr. Jesus, heal me. What? See,